So this whole idea started about a couple of months ago. I was up at an auction and I was strolling down aisle 1 and there it was. There was a gas-powered chop saw, an old home light from I'd say the mid-70s. And up until that moment I didn't know I needed a gas-powered chop saw. So it came up on the block. I was going to get in on the bidding, and sure enough it ended up going for like 95 bucks. Well, that's out of my price range, and you know, I've been disappointed ever since then. So what do you do when you suddenly have this new need for something that you can't get cheaply? You make it yourself. So this is kind of a rough layout of what we're going to try and accomplish here. You got your chainsaw right here. Yeah, excuse that rough representation of a chainsaw. But you got the chainsaw here. Those are the stock studs that your bar mounts to, and we need to put a belt pulley in place of the chain sprocket that's on there currently. So if we're going to have the belt pulley pretty much mounted directly to the crankshaft, we need to keep the corresponding belt pulley in line with that. That's where the bar, we're going to bend it up and over to get the pulley aligned, because you got to have clearance for the 2 bearings. And out here is going to be the cutoff wheel. One thing why you need 2 bearings on here, if you just tried to put 1 bearing, you would put a lot of side load on that 1 bearing when the belt's pulling on it. So having these 2 bearings spaced apart give it a good support for the moment that this thing's trying to pull back on it. I got an old bar that's been burned up. She'll be perfect for making what we got to do. Start sketching things out. Turns out, bending a chainsaw bar and breaking it the way you want doesn't work out so well. Not even a bigger hammer could help this one. So we had to give up on the stock chainsaw bar that was going to be bent into the new piece. So we went in a scrap pile and got a piece of about 5/16 flat bar. That was actually the motor mount off an old Skidoo. So we cut a slot and a little adjustment hole, same as is on the original bar. That'll allow us to bolt this thing onto the saw and use the stock tensioner to adjust the belt tension. It's going to be all bolt-on, no modifications required to the chainsaw. We need to attach a belt pulley onto a chain sprocket. Well, we're getting there. Boom. Found out that this pulley is actually off a Maytag washing machine motor. Got a couple of cheap Chinese flange mount bearings that came with a 5/8 inch bore. Basically I ended up flipping the bearing around inside the base there so it wouldn't come out the side any further. I needed it as narrow as possible. Now for the front pulley, I wanted a larger pulley to give it a little bit of a reduction in speed, and I went back in the pile and I had this idler pulley, which I think was actually off an old Jeep or something. Anyways, the bearing was shot and it was just laying around. So what we did is we got a 5/8 inch bolt and pretty much welded it directly to the sprocket. Now I did this a little bit at a time, made sure the alignment was good. So we drilled out a couple of holes for the bearings to mount to, and a larger center hole for the shaft to go through, and any other spacers we need in there. So basically we're going to have the main pulley going through the center of the bar. We're going to have 2 bearings on either side mounted like that. And when we bolt this thing all together, because the nut on the outside is also going to tighten the cutting wheel onto it, we got to get enough shims or washers and stack them down on the shaft here, so when you tighten the nut, all the forces go through the center of the bearings and you don't end up putting too much preload on those bearings. You'll burn them out. So never measure, bend 4 times. Looks good to me. So we went over to my favorite store, Trader Horn, and I got this chop saw blade for like $7. Apparently it's made for a gas powered chainsaw conversion, so you know, should be good to go. Safety's kind of a concern on this build, so we need a guard. So I was out, you know, perusing the scrapyard, couldn't find anything the right size, but we found these. It's the part of a track for a garage door. Yeah, you know, it's got a bit of curvature to it. It'll be a bit easier, you know, forming that than straight fabbing it from flat stock. So we just got to flatten and re-radius this. So we'll just start making cuts about every inch or so the whole way around. So we got a bunch of cuts. Start beating it with a hammer. Any radius you want. Looks good to me. Just got to tack weld it together now. So there it is, all tack welded together. I just had some scrap laying around. I tacked it onto the bar, try and get the position set. I made it so that the outer portion of the cover comes off, so that's how you can change out the cutoff wheel. So there's the pulley center shaft and bearing stack, and now when we want to actually attach the cutoff wheel, just got a couple of big washers. That's going to act as the main backing plate. Now we needed something to center that wheel on there, you know, because you got to have it pretty centered when it's spinning at, you know, 8 grand. I found a washer and I drilled out the inside diameter to fit nice and tight onto that center shaft, and the OD of that is like, I think it's 1 inch. It fits exactly on the inside of that wheel, so there's no play. Another washer, big lock washer, tighten her down. That's that. So you just take out these couple of bolts there, and the cover pops out. Since the belt and stuff turns this way, any slippage from the cutting wheel will actually want to tighten that nut up. So if I'd have put the blade on the other side, it would have wanted to spin the bolt off a standard right hand thread. So we kind of eyeballed the initial belt length with a piece of string, came up with 4L360. It might work. So we can use the stock chain adjustment to tighten up the belt. I positioned the guard so that when you set the chainsaw on the ground, the bottom of the guard hits first and it rests on that, so you don't screw up the cutting wheel. Got to make sure that you drain out all the bar oil, you know, so it's not putting oil all over your belt. That's not going to make anything work very well. There's the finished product. About ready to go give it a shot here.
Alright, you're on.